Hi, this is CK at CK Education, and today I want to share with you the number 9 attribute of a perfect candidate. This is going to be the last one. Now, there are many many other attributes that I can name, but you can't go on forever with these things. It's got to stop at some point. So we're going to end with number 9. This is the last attribute for what I call the perfect candidate. Again, if you haven't watched my previous 9 videos on this whole in this whole interview series, I encourage you to do that, especially the first one. I will have a link at the end of this video to the playlist that has all of the videos that I'm talking about, all the previous videos. So I encourage you to watch that. Whether you're interviewing for an internship in college or your first real professional career job, or you've been in the industry and you've been working as a professional for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it doesn't matter. These principles still apply. And these principles are the same ones that I use for over 25 years. And as I said in the first video, I've had approximately 12, a little bit more, but I'll just say 12. I've had 12 interviews, professional interviews, since I graduated college in 1995, and I've gotten a job offer for every single interview that I've had in my career. So that's a 100% success rate. And again, the only reason I share that is to tell you that what I'm sharing with you is based on experience, not theory. So number 9 is goal-oriented. This goes back to one of my other videos that I made, and I said, I think the title of that one was that your planning horizon is too short. I find that most people in life have planning horizons that are way too short. Now, this is not just people, organizations as well. When I used to do consulting and when I was an engineer and I did consulting for different companies, I went in different companies and organizations to help them become more effective in their quality and productivity and so forth. I found that their planning horizons were much too short as well. Not only managers and supervisors and executives, but the company as a whole. I've heard some companies in Asia have planning horizons that are 200 years out, whereas most American companies will have a 10-year, 20-year vision statement or planning horizon. Now, when it comes down to the individual, it's the same thing. Most people, they're not really seriously thinking out into the future past maybe 6 months, maybe a year, if that. Most people are living for the moment. Most people are living week to week, maybe month to month. And when you ask them questions like, so what's your goal in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years? Man, when you start going out to 5 and 10 years, people get lost. They have this, dazed look on their faces like, who thinks like 5 years out or 10 years out? Well, you should think that far out. In fact, I've said in a previous video, you've got to plan out all the way to the very, very, very end of your life. And then you got to think about what kind of life will you have wanted to live so that you have no regrets when you get to the end. And then you want to rewind and come back to today and say, I'm going to start making decisions. I'm going to start living my life in such a way that I can end up, at the end of it, I have no regrets. Now, even in that regard, I would say that most people are planning it the wrong way. Most people say, well, I want to have no regrets in life, so I'm going to have the most fun that I can have. This is foolish. It's not about having the most fun you can have in life. That is not what life is about. Now, I don't want to get into the depths of what is the purpose of life and so forth. You can watch some of my other videos regarding that. But for this video, I'm just saying those things to say that even when it comes to your career, if you're only thinking out, well, my job right now is okay. So what do you think that you're going to do, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years out? I don't know. I hope to still have this job. If you have no goals beyond that, I think you're not going to do very well. I don't think that you can get to places in which you're not even thinking about going to. Okay, I think you have to have goals in order for you to have a chance to reach those goals. Because what happens is when you have very specific goals, you start changing your behavior, you start hopefully changing your mindset every day on a consistent basis so that you can have a better chance of reaching those goals. If you have absolutely no goals, then you have no reason to do that. You have no reason to change. You have no reason to learn. And so you want to have very specific goals. If you get into a company and your goal is, well, I just hope that I have this job 10 years later, you're probably not going to get very far. You want to have very specific goals. What is the next step up in your position? What is the next step up? Okay, so if you're a technician and say, well, my next step up is a supervisor. Okay, what do you need to do to become a supervisor? How much does a supervisor get paid? How many hours does a supervisor work? What are the skills needed? What is the education needed, or training needed? And what kind of responsibilities does that person have? What kind of things does that person do that you don't do today? How does that person think? And that is different than the way you think today. And you have to answer all of those questions, and you have to prepare yourself so that you can someday get to that position. Whenever people see successful people, a lot of people say things like, oh man, that person's so lucky. He got so lucky. She got so lucky. I tell you, it's not luck. Success is not luck. It is when preparation meets opportunity. So I always say, look, even if the opportunity has not come yet, prepare yourself for that opportunity. Just like I just said, if you're preparing yourself to think like, to have the skills like, to understand, to do the things that the next step up position does, even though you're not in that position, when that moment comes, you'll be prepared. But if that moment comes and you're not prepared, oh man, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. I didn't know I was supposed to think like that. I didn't know I was supposed to get that education or that training. And you haven't done anything, you will get passed up. Okay, so when preparation meets opportunity, that's when success happens. It's not accidental. It's not like, man, just one day I woke up and like I went to work and they gave me a promotion or they did. That doesn't happen. It's when preparation meets opportunity. And opportunity is given to people who are prepared. Always remember that. So you have to have goals. What is your next step up? What is 2 steps up from your position? What is 3 steps up? You see, people who get into higher and higher positions think very differently than the people who are in lower positions. And I don't mean higher and lower in regards to people's worth or value. That everyone's value and worth is the same. I'm talking about the hierarchy of a work organization. So a CEO is going to have a higher position and more responsibility than someone who works on the front lines on the assembly line, for example. Okay. Now, both of their jobs are very important, and both are valuable human beings. Their worth is the same, but their positions and responsibilities and their spheres of influence are different, and their thinking is way different. A CEO is not thinking, how do I put this part so that it matches this part? How do I design this part so that it can be assembled easily with this part? An engineer thinks of that. How does this part go together? How can I assemble these together? A technician or assembly person thinks of that. But a CEO is thinking, how can I increase market share? How can we market to this country as well as this country? How can we better brand our image? How can we better improve our branding? They're thinking big picture. How can we satisfy our stakeholders, our shareholders? How can we increase our share price, our stock price? They're thinking of very different things. And so if you don't think like that, you're not going to be qualified to work in that level. And I'm not just talking about CEO. I'm just thinking about 1 level, 2 levels, 3 levels above the levels that you're working at. So that's why I always say, in order for you to succeed, you have to change your mindset. It's not just skills. Well, I see what that person's doing. I can do what they do. Maybe you can do what they do, but can you think like they think? That is the bigger thing. Everybody looks at the outside and says, I can do what they do, but you can't think the way they think. Perhaps the reason they're doing what they do is because of the way they think. It's the result of the way they think. It's not the thing that they do in and of itself. It comes from a certain mindset. And if you don't have that mindset, you're not going to have those results when you get into that position. You're just going to copy somebody and you're not going to be successful because you don't know how to think. Okay. And so mindset is a very, very most important thing. So make goals, 1-year goal, 3-year goal, 5-year goal, 7-year, what are your goals? What are your career goals? And if someone asks you that question, you should have answers. Let me tell you, I was a real estate investor for 10 years. This was while I was a full-time engineer. And I remember a few of my tenants very vividly. One of my tenants, she was an African-American lady, a wonderful lady, she worked at the property that I had was near a Target, okay, a Target store. And she was a store manager for that Target store. And she was an excellent tenant, always paid her rent on time, just kept the place nice. And I wish she had lived in my house for 10 years, but unfortunately, after a year, she had to move to another state. And I'll tell you why in a second. When she started out, she didn't start out as a store manager. Okay, this is a lot of people think. A lot of people think, well, I'm going to go work at Target. Store managers make pretty good money. So I'm going to go to Target and I'm going to apply as store manager. You can't. You got to move up. Okay, so she started out, as a cashier, just checking people out. Okay, and she was doing that. But the thing was, while she was doing that, so was, 50 other people. Here's the difference. She was goal-oriented. While everyone else, well, this is just a part-time job, just a thing that I do right now. For her, she took it very seriously. This is a thing that I do right now, but I want to become supervisor. So she looked at what are the skills and what's the training and what is required to become a supervisor. And in no time, she became a supervisor. And once she became a supervisor, she started going to school at night. Target pays, at the time, this was many years, this was 15 years ago, but Target paid for, at that time, I don't know if they still do, but they paid for her tuition or a large part of it. So she worked during the day. And when she didn't work, she was going to online school. She was getting her master's degree. Now, she already had a bachelor's degree. She already had a college degree. But this lady, she couldn't find a job in some other place. So she swallowed her pride. And she went and got a job at Target, getting paid whatever she was getting paid. Probably not that much, right? But even though she had a college degree. So good for her. She was taking it seriously, working very hard, got to the next level. And then she started going to online school to get her master's degree. And she got that over a period of about 2 years. And she became supervisor, and then she became like assistant store manager, and then she became store manager. By the time I met her, she was store manager. She had already gotten her degree, her 2 degrees. And after a year of living in my house, she says, Mr. Kim, I gotta relocate to Georgia. And I said, oh man, that's too bad. I really loved having you as a tenant. You're wonderful. She says, yeah, I know. I wish I could stay here longer, but they're relocating me. And I said, well, why are they doing that? She said, I got promoted to a regional director. Okay. Even a level higher than she was working. She was store manager in charge of the whole store, Target store. She was now going to be relocated to Georgia, where she was going to have managed 3 to 5 Target stores, she's told me. And her pay was going to increase significantly. And I said, that is wonderful. Congratulations. You deserve it. You work so hard. Man, I'm not surprised. And that I hate losing you as a tenant, but good for you. That was so wonderful. I'm so happy for you. And she says, and Mr. Kim, in 10 years, my goal is to become one of the vice presidents at Target. And I said, I have no doubt that you will reach those goals. Nobody thought that you would reach this goal of becoming a regional director for Target when you started out as a cashier. You probably had people tell you, well, you graduated from college, you have a college degree. What are you doing like checking out people at the cashier? It's such a loser job. She probably heard this many times. But it didn't faze her. She had a goal and she took it seriously. Now who's laughing? And this is exactly what happens to goal-oriented people. And so she went on to become regional director. Now, I don't know. I've lost touch with her. It's been maybe, like I said, 15 years since then. I'm sure she's one of the vice presidents at Target. Kicking butt, okay? Getting paid big bucks to make big decisions and have big responsibilities. But remember, this is a lady who rented what was a tenant in one of my homes when she was a store manager. And before that, she was just a cashier at Target. But this is what happens to goal-oriented people. Now, I guarantee you that there are still people in that same store who are working as cashiers, and they started out when she started out as a cashier. They're still working as cashiers. They haven't even gone up another level to supervisor. Why? Because they were not goal-oriented. They didn't take it seriously. They don't take it seriously. It's very, 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 very different. People who are goal-oriented have different results. So I encourage you to become goal-oriented. Think about goals. Think about specific goals and the specific things you have to do every day to reach that goal eventually. Your goal should have a time frame. Your goal should have detailed daily action plans of what you have to do every day. How are you going to measure your success? How are you going to know if you're getting better? How are you going to know if you're getting there? What kind of resources do you need? What kind of people do you need to meet? What kind of books do you have to read? What kind of things do you have to learn? What kind of education or training do you have to have? What kind of mindset do you have to change in order to get to that level? And if you are thinking about those things, you have no time to be thinking, well, I don't know, this job, it's okay, but it's all right. I'm getting paid $14 an hour. There's no time to just sit there. You can't wait until you're off the job and you go home so that you can constantly and continue to prepare yourself for the next level. That kind of person is prepared, and when opportunity comes knocking, they will be successful. In fact, opportunity will come looking for those kinds of people. Opportunity looks for prepared people, and prepared people are people who are goal-oriented. So when you go into an interview, be ready. When the interviewer asks you, so what's your one-year goal, 3-year goal, 5, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? You should have detailed answers, okay? And if you do, detailed answers, and if you do, you will be a very impressive candidate because very few people do, all right? So I hope that was helpful. This is the last video in the interview series. If you have any questions about interviewing, other questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or contact me, and I'd be happy to correspond with you. But I hope they've been helpful, and thanks again for watching these videos and staying with me up to this point. And until my next video, please stay well.